Alright, so today we got the Saweetie allegations are wild, y'all. What is going on with Saweetie? What has she got herself into? We're about to get into this video and see what is going on. Let's get it, let's go.
I want to talk about this recent story involving rapper Saweetie getting exposed by her former road manager, who basically accused her of moving like an escort.
Here we go, y'all. That's a serious accusation. We're gonna get into it.
In 2017 with her breakout song Icy Girl. After that, she had a few big hits and a very public relationship with the rapper Quavo. But even though her music pushed her to the top, a lot of the conversations around her career has always been about her image, her relationships, and whether the fame was built on more than just the music. Now let's get into this particular story. A few days ago, a woman who goes by the name of Maybach May, who claimed to be Saweetie's former road manager, went viral after posting a series of social media posts accusing Saweetie of exploiting her current boyfriend.
Wow, she's tricking her own boyfriend?
Money, who arranged Saweetie's trip to London, where she met Jaden. Some of y'all might recognize the name or face. Jaden Sancho is a very famous 25-year-old English footballer or
what team he play for?
Player, like Americans would say, who plays for Aston Villa in the Premier League.
Saweetie
and Jaden first linked up
he making a serious
January
back.
2025 following her visit to Chelsea FC's home stadium, Stamford Bridge, back when Jaden was playing there for one season on a loan. That trip ended up being a turning point because, according to Saweetie's former road manager, that's where the story started. Now, Miss Maybach May put up a few posts, but the most prominent one was a screenshot of what she claimed was a text conversation between her and Saweetie. And in those messages, Saweetie was allegedly making an inquiry about Jaden Sancho, basically asking, how much money could I run up if I ended up getting with this guy? And that was one of the most talked about parts of these allegations. This text that the ex-manager claimed came from Saweetie herself, and the message said, "When bitches run it up on Jaden, how much they doing in a weekend?" So that line alone had people online losing their minds, because if that
he giving out money like that, that's it. That's on him.
Are other women making off of him, almost like she's comparing rates? And that's what made this whole situation spiral, because it doesn't just sound messy, it sounds very transactional. And this is important because this is not the first time Saweetie has been accused of this type of thing. Over the years, there's been quiet talk, rumors, gossip, whatever you want to call it, through the grapevine about her using relationships as a business move. Now, this is kind of when it starts getting into the territory where people begin throwing around words like selling the pum pum or escorting, which basically is a very serious accusation. Some of y'all might remember how back in 2022, a little over a year after her breakup with Quavo, he seemingly called her out on the song Messy with the late Takeoff. Rest in peace to Takeoff. On that record, he said, "BITCH after my dog behind my back, but I ain't stressing." And at the time, everybody knew who the dog was rumored to be. It was Offset. And that lyric right there came right after online rumors started spreading online that Saweetie and Offset had hooked up behind Quavo's back.
Dang! Yo, what? That is crazy. That is crazy. That's his brother, cousin. That's some nasty work right there.
Which allegedly is what started the beef between the two members of the Migos, who are the only two ones left. Saweetie never confirmed it, neither did Offset. However, Offset did years later, recently actually, he denied that. But that moment definitely changed how a lot of people started looking at Saweetie. So now with these new allegations from her former road manager, people are revisiting that old situation, not because the stories are, the same, but because they both paint a picture of how Saweetie moves when it comes to men with status and power, right? Now, her former road manager put up a few...
Did her head shrink, or am I tripping? From the first two pictures, I could have sworn her head was longer.
Other posts, and one of the most notable ones is where she referred to Jaden Sancho as a client. I want to make one thing clear. I booked her for an appearance to visit the Chelsea stadium and support the soccer team. Instead of paying me, she fell in love with the client and told him not to pay me. I was a road manager with her, getting her deals. I was solid to this girl. She got what she wanted and never paid me. Simple. I want my money. Interesting. She claimed she was actually...
Well, I put that online, though. Why not, get a lawyer and do it that way? Doing all that is not going to get you anywhere. I mean, it brought attention to the situation, but...
The one who arranged for Saweetie and Jaden to link up, but according to her, things didn't go as planned. And in reality, at least based on what the road manager is saying, the whole plan was for Saweetie to get together with Jaden, and he would trick on her. Okay, meaning he'd spend money on her, buy gifts, fly her out.
Oh, that's how that works?
Take care of her financially in exchange for her time and attention. Basically, paying for the boom boom, right? But instead of keeping it business, Saweetie allegedly, fell in love with the guy, and that's what Miss Maybach is claiming. So that's when, this whole story turned from just messy into something way more serious. I'll tell a joke, but I ain't never told a lie. I sent you to Dubai because you never balled before and was depressed looking for a happy life. Took you to London, babes. Took you to Nigeria. Booked you on an Australian tour. I helped this girl so much, only for her to play with my money at the end. I'm just missing my payment.
How
money
much?
from London. Pay up before I start naming the rest of the husbands you was playing with. And her beef with Saweetie is basically that Saweetie didn't pay her.
Dang, she was out here messing with the Saudis.
For these services. Okay?
Out of Dubai.
Like 50 cents, she wanted her goddamn money. Now, some people might call that matchmaking or management, but depending on how you look at it, if what this woman is saying is actually true, that starts crossing into something way darker, because what she's describing sounds a lot like what they call procure. Because what she's describing sounds a lot like procuring, which by definition is when someone arranges or facilitates sexual encounters for money in. In illegal terms, that's literally what's known as pimping or being a madame, which falls under sex trafficking laws in the United States and most other countries. So if, and that's a big if, what she's claiming actually happened, that wouldn't just be messy, that would be a crime. But again, these are just allegations. None of this has been confirmed, and Saweetie hasn't, publicly spoken about this. And I just don't know how smart it is for the ex-manager to even put this out there publicly for a few reasons. Number one, I don't know if this is how she makes her money, but if it is, this move could seriously hurt her business, because anyone with money or status is going to look at this and think, yeah, I'm not working with someone who's exposing private stuff like that. And number two, if there's even a little truth to what she's saying, she might have actually put herself in danger, because when you start talking about flying people around for things like that, it can get the authorities involved real quick. I mean, that's not just drama anymore.
FBI about to be knocking on her door.
Real investigation. So honestly, she might have exposed herself too while trying to expose Saweetie, because if this ever gets to the point where the FBI, whoever starts, looking into it, Saweetie could easily flip it into, she could say that, hey, I was being extorted, or, the manager was the one who was trying to set her up. And just like that, Saweetie gets the get out of jail free card, right? But that's beside the point. This type of thing isn't very rare in the entertainment world. Obviously, none of this is confirmed. These are all allegations, and that's exactly how we're labeling it for now, the Saweetie allegations. But let's be real, a lot of this kind of stuff goes on behind the scenes, right? And it's just that most of the time, it never goes to the public. Once they're connected to the entertainment space, it's a whole different ball game, because what happens is you start mixing money, fame, and access. That's where the lines get blurry. Now, whatever you want to say about Saweetie, go ahead, but the truth is, she got money. She's a millionaire. She's not broke. She got money, but that doesn't automatically mean someone can get caught up in a situation like this, because the truth is, a lot of women who move in these circles, they might have money, but at the same time, they just don't have that kind of money, right? Like, just to give you an idea, Jadon Sancho, the young man we talked about who's 25, who plays in the Premier League, he's reportedly making 300,000 British pounds a week. That's almost 400,000 US dollars every single week. So rapper money is very different from athlete, but specifically Premier League money, clearly. So when you're in those circles, when that kind of money's floating around, it's a different ballgame, right? And they don't just deal with random women on the street. They go through people, connections, introductions, recommendations, okay, from inside their little world. So when you see a woman with some kind of, popularity, and I'm not specifically saying Saweetie here, but when you see them with these types of women, these types of guys, they don't just pay for, sex. They're also paying for the drama-free experience that comes with it. They know that if they mess with another woman who doesn't have anything to lose, who isn't established or doesn't have her own name, that can get messy fast. But if the woman already has some kind of platform, status, or reputation, it feels safer to them, right? She understands discretion, she understands the game, and she's not about to risk everything for attention. That's the mindset a lot of these ultra wealthy guys have. So it's not always about just attraction. It's about control, privacy, and keeping their world clean from unnecessary problems. I mean, we're talking about wealthy CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, obviously athletes and musicians and stuff like that. And most of the time, these men already have like a main woman or a wife or a long-term partner who's already aware of how things work. So when they do have someone on the side, that's an arrangement, okay? They know that they can just mess around with anyone, because one bird-ass bitch can fuck up the whole operation. So that's why a lot of this stuff goes on very quietly through people they trust. Introductions, recommendations, circles where everybody already knows the rules, like I said. So that gets into a whole different conversation, one I'm actually working on for a separate video. But back to Saweetie. Now, it's being alleged that she had multiple trips booked and arranged by this former road manager. The manager claims that they're flying out to all kinds of destinations, Europe, Africa, Australia with the kangaroos and shit, you name it. And according to her, those weren't just regular work trips. She's claiming there was a whole other purpose behind them, which if true, would completely change how people look at Saweetie's public image, because even though these kinds of rumors have been echoing around the industry for years, Saweetie's always tried to play on a certain image, which is like the classy, feminine, and business savvy look, right? Or classy, I would say early on in her career. Later on, she just said fuck it, right? She built early on, it was about luxury, confidence, and independence, but at the same time, the way she's moved outside of that brand has often been the complete opposite. Like a few years ago, she went viral due to this Instagram live she put up where she was telling women, if he's not buying you a Birkin bag or paying your bills, throw that nigga back to the streets.
If he not getting you a Birkin, if he not paying for your bills, then throw that nigga back to the streets, okay?
Coincidentally enough, she dropped a song right before that moment called Back to the Streets. So a lot of people started feeling like the whole thing was just marketing, which it was, where she was playing into that same image in order to sell the music. And the issue with that is pretty obvious. You're selling women in your audience this fantasy that if a man isn't buying you a designer bag, which is worthless, or paying your bills, he's not worth your time. Which in other words, you're basically saying this pum pum can be bought. Now, as for this particular story, again, these are just allegations. Saweetie hasn't responded to anything, but it's the kind of claim that sticks, especially when it feeds into an image people have already questioned. And the conversation that's been coming up about Saweetie for a while now is how much she's actually benefited from what people call pretty privilege, which in other words means the idea that her looks opened the door for her, that she's been rewarded for being attractive more than her actual talent. But recently, she actually flipped the whole conversation on its head, and she went viral for it. During a recent interview, Saweetie actually talked about something she called pretty punishment. In her words, people have seen that she's gorgeous, she's getting money, she's getting bags, she's always in a spotlight, but what they don't see is how many doors were slammed in her face, how many times she's been counted out or underestimated because of her appearance. And this is according to her, right? This is her perspective. Saweetie said they talk about pretty privilege, but they don't talk about pretty punishment. And what she meant by that is that being pretty comes with a different kind of bias. People project on you, they assume things, and sometimes they even root against you out of animosity or hidden agendas. And Saweetie said that this is something that she's dealt with her entire life.
Feel like the industry has tried to count you out? Like,
Since I started.
talk about it, man. Because I think people, look, to be honest, people see you're gorgeous. You're getting endless bags. You are, listen, that girl. I don't think they understand how many doors, how many rejections, how many times people have counted you out.
I saw it on TikTok. They talk about pretty privilege, but they don't talk about pretty punishment. There's been so many times I've just been counted out, and I know that it's behind animosity. I know it's because of a hidden agenda, but it makes me work harder. But this has happened my whole life. So it's like what I deal with in the industry is just different face, same case.
Oof.
Now, after that clip went viral, Saweetie got a lot of backlash online, but she pushed back, saying the media twisted her words and misrepresented her point. On X, formerly known as Twitter, she said the conversation wasn't about bragging or complaining. It was about microaggressions, hidden agendas, and what it's really like to move through the industry as a woman who's constantly being judged for her looks. And she clarified that she's grateful and she's happy for her success. Glory to God, I believe she said. But the pressure, bias, and judgment is real. And she ended it by saying she's not fazed and that she'll keep going because she has a vision, right? So yeah, she framed the whole pretty privilege narrative into something deeper. And whether you agree or not, it's definitely got people talking, right? Now, I don't know exactly where Saweetie stands after these allegations. We haven't heard her side. And everything that's come out so far is still just claims. But what we do know is that this whole conversation opens up a much bigger door because it's way more common than people think. And it got me thinking about something else, which is if Saweetie, someone with money, fame, and a career, and a very strong brand, is allegedly moving this way, imagine what's going on with the industry women who don't have any of that. Imagine what a lot of these Instagram models are doing behind the scenes, like not the established ones, the ones who are trying to get it popping just now. The ones who are flying out to all these different places like it's nothing. Amsterdam to Bali to Oslo. Next day she's all up in New York and then back to Bali. Like, bitch, how the fuck you do that shit? Posting this luxurious
Yo, he is not lying.
lifestyle, but they don't have a consistent stream of income. And a lot of them are just doing what they can to keep up with the image, to survive, to maintain a lifestyle, or to chase that next opportunity, which
flights ain't
comes in the
cheap.
form of a man
Flights
with money
ain't cheap
who they're
at
using
all.
as a come up. I think these allegations are pretty wild, and to emphasize once again, these are just allegations right now.
There you guys have it. Saweetie, what you gotta think about the situation? If anything else comes up in regards to this, I'm gonna react to it. Let me know what other videos you'd like from me to react to down in the comment section down below. Make sure y'all are in the Discord. I'll catch you on the next one. Tune in, never tune out. Remember, every day you guys have a choice. Choose growth at the ATM, and I'm signing out. Deuces.